Hello and welcome everybody here to Musicians Edition. I'm Evan, and as a follow-up to my video that I recently put up on the circle of fifths, I wanted to just do a video going over its main entry-level purpose, which is how to find the key of a song very, very quickly. So this is going to be, you have the sheet music in front of you, and you need to figure out what the key that you're actually going to be playing in is. We will focus on having minimal to no theory knowledge so that anyone can be able to do this. All you need to be able to do really is read the notes on a sheet, which if you are planning to read sheet music, you would need to be able to do anyway. So let's go ahead and run through this quickly. At the beginning of a song, there is a key signature that looks something like this. It will either have sharps or flats in it. Any number of them could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sharps or flats in that key signature. If your sheet looks like it is missing this kind of a key signature, make sure you are looking at the very beginning of it because it might not repeat as you look at the sheet throughout the song. So make sure you're looking at that very first measure for that key signature. If you still feel like you're missing it, it goes straight from the clef to the numbers of the time signature. Then that means you are not playing any sharps or flats and you're just playing the white keys, so they don't need to notate any sharps or flats in that key signature.
This lesson is brought to you by the Musicians Edition practice book. Make goals and keep track of progress throughout the whole year. When you're done with this video lesson, don't forget to mark this practice time in your Musicians Edition practice book. Now back to the video.
So you know how to find a key signature. Now here's the picture that shows you pretty much everything you need to know from there. This is called the circle of fifths. There is theory and more you can kind of learn from this, but let's just stick with our main application of finding the key of this song. I highly, highly encourage you to print this out and put it up on your wall. This does have a lot of uses. You can always use this to help you figure out the keys super quickly, and printing it out, putting it up on that wall is much easier than memorizing this entire thing. So please, please, please do that. What this picture does is it shows you the matching major and minor key for any given key signature you might be looking at. It narrows it down from all of the possible options down to 2 options, 1 major and 1 minor key. And this is done just by looking at the key signature. So 1 sharp always equals these 2 keys. And in this example, that would be G major and B minor. 2 sharps always equals these 2. 3 sharps always equals these 2. No sharps or flats. Up on the top is always a C major or an A minor. To the left, we have flats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rights, we have sharps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on for each of those. There's only 2 key options that those key signatures can be. And this method works every single time for any song that is at a standard major or minor key, which is the vast majority of songs, especially in Western music, that are out there. So this works for almost everything you might be looking at. So this does help us narrow it down to 2, but we want this narrowed down to 1 so we know exactly what key we are playing in. So what do you do from there? Well, we're going to look at a couple things. We can look at the first note or chord in the song, and that is often a good giveaway. Other than that, we can also look at the very last note or chord in the song, and one of those will very likely be the note that the key is named after. So if we have our 2 options, like here we have 5 sharps, well, look at our 2 options that include those 5 sharps right there. And then I've got it narrowed down to those 2. Let's go ahead and look at the first chord. If that doesn't give me the giveaway, I would look at the last chord. But in this one, you can see that first chord tells me exactly what key it is in. And I've been able to do that in just 5 seconds here. So picture down to 2 options. Look at that very first chord or sometimes the very first note of the melody. And if that gives me the giveaway between one of those 2 notes, then I'm done. Sometimes you need to look a little bit further, like towards that very end chord or melody to help you out as well too, or to just be able to double check it. One other way you could look at it after you do have those narrowed down to 2 options, if you're not very good at analyzing the sheet, because you have it down to either just 1 major or 1 minor key, you could also just listen to the song and see if it seems to revolve around that major scale, that major chord, more major set of notes to make it kind of happier, then that's going to be the major one. Or if it does seem to revolve around more of those darker, sadder minor chords or notes, then you know it would be that minor option since we only had it down to that 1 major or 1 minor option to choose from. Let's look at one example to show you this just from start to finish and just show you how easy this can be. Let's look at Trouble by Coldplay, a piano song I was learning recently. Trouble by Coldplay, let's look at the key signature. I've got 1 sharp, so that 1 sharp gives me 2 options. That's going to be G major or E minor to choose from. So what do I do from there? Okay, let's look at the very beginning. Ooh, that first chord I've got, that's a standard G chord with a GBD. My work here is done. Sometimes you won't always get that lucky though, so I can double check myself, or if it wasn't given away in that verse chord. Let's go ahead and just look at the very end of this to double check it. The very last chord we have is a B, which is not either of my two options. But if I go ahead and track back a bit and look to the measure before that, I can see my progression is just a G, E, B. And if I keep looking back, I can see that G, E, B, G, E, B just repeated as the progression throughout, I believe, this entire song, really. So my progression is a G, E, B. E was my other option, but it's always stuck in the middle. My progression never starts on it, never ends or resolves on it, so that can't really be the option. So my progression is going to be named after that G, which always starts it, and I can see that that is a key contributor that the rest of the song is going to be using as well too. So I've double confirmed it that it is G major that I'm in, and I'm done. I hope that helps. One more time, here's the picture for you to look at. Again, print it out and use it. It is very useful to be able to use it for this trick. It has other applications. If you are interested in learning more about the circle of fifths, go ahead and look at the other videos up on our channel. Hope that helps, and we'll see you next time.